Good morning, everyone. So recently, I had a conversation with one of my colleagues, and he's busy in the process of doing a data analysis on a certain data set. And one of the issues that he was having had to do with missing values. So I thought it'd be a great idea just to have an overview presentation talk on how to deal with missing values. So that's what this presentation is all about. So one thing we have to understand is that data sets often come with missing values where no data is available in the row columns. And in many cases, we cannot simply throw away missing values because we need to have enough data for meaningful analysis. We often leave them in, and in some cases fill the values with some sort of estimate, in which case it is very important to minimize balances or distortions. Furthermore, missing values may themselves be informative in some way. That is, the fact that a data point is missing can have high predictive power. For example, the table on the slide shows the data sales for newspapers. So the first column leads to the dates, and the second column shows the number of copies sold on each day. Curiously, there is no sales value recorded on March 27. This missing value can cause difficulty when the modeling approach requires a data value for each column and row. So, for example, a case for linear regression, although it is straightforward to remove all records with missing values, it can lead to significant loss in data. So the issue is especially severe for datasets with many columns. Even if there is only a small fraction of missing values for each column, there will be many rows of at least one missing values. As a result, you have too many rows that will need to be removed in the process. So let's look at this graph. So the graph on this slide is simple line plot of the sales data that we saw earlier, where the x-axis is the date and the y-axis is the number of copies sold. So the plot basically shows significant variation in dairy sales with the highest value of 50 on March 28. There is no sales record on March 27. We have a missing value on that day, which is filled with a value of 0 on the graph. So the sales data appear to follow some sort of pattern, right? The value is high initially and gradually decreases in the next few days and then increases again. And the pattern, you can see it repeats itself. And the next slide now shows the same graph, but in this case, we're now showing with weekday information, which turns out to be quite useful. It is apparent from this graph that sales seem to follow a weekly pattern. So the sales number is the highest on Mondays, and then this gradually decreases in the next few days, but kicks up over the weekend. So one very important thing to note, that the missing value on March 27 is quite disruptive to this pattern. So without a correct inference value, a real impression can be misleading. Suppose that we would like to use this data for sales cost, a common business task, or for cost to be brought down by 0 sales value on March 27th. This again shows the importance of dealing with missing values as a data pre-processing step in predictive modeling. What happened on March 27? There are many possible causes of missing values. Sometimes a missing value is simply a result of negligence in data recording. We may forget to record a value. In this particular situation, however, after some investigation, we discovered that March 27th is the Easter Sunday, and on this day, the newsstand is closed. So Although we have a perfect understanding what causes missing values, the missing value in March 27, we still need to decide on what to do about it. If we include zero sales in our data set, it will certainly distort our sales forecast. There are many possible ways to deal with missing values, and here I just want to discuss a few of them. The first one is simply remove the data, as we mentioned earlier. However, it is not always feasible, as we may throw away too much data. The second approach is to input or guess a value. We can fill in the missing value with zero, with average sales, or with a smart guess from some interpolation. For example, we can use sales on the same day last year to fill in the value. In general, we can use observations from similar data points to intelligently guess the value. Finally, we can also make missing value, missing its own category. Such approach is typically more appropriate for categorical data. So now let's return to our little example that we introduced earlier and try to input a value for March 27th. Filling in the value with zero, as it is already done, is probably not a good approach. Where the newsstand not closed for Easter Sunday, it is quite unlikely that the sales will be zero. What about filling the value with average sales across all different dates? If we do that, we get a value of 37.23, which seems to be a reasonable value for use. Yet another approach is to use some interpolation approach. Since our data demonstrates some weekly pattern, we can use sales on the last Sunday as an estimate, in which case we'll fill the value with 40. It can be argued that either of the two values, 37.23 and 40, are reasonable estimates for the sales of March 27th. The first one, 37.23, uses more data to come up with the estimate and therefore may be more reliable. The second one, 40, takes advantage of the weekly pattern in the data. However, it only uses one data point to estimate its value. If for some reason the sales on Sunday, April 3rd, is exponentially high or low for reason we don't know, the same bias will certainly be carried to the next estimate. So, missing values should be contrasted to censored values, which are partially observed values and therefore are not accurate. Censored values also need to be carefully treated in its variant data masses. Going back to our later example, the sales on Monday, March 28th is 50, which is also the largest sales number in our data sets. After talking to, doing more investigation, and you find that after talking to the store manager, you discover that only 50 copies of the paper are available for sale on that day. This data point is censored value. The sale on this day is not fully observed because we ran out of inventory. A sales record of 50 suggests that sales can be at least 50. However, you don't know exactly what it would be. So now let me just briefly recap our discussion. So we talked about the importance of dealing with missing values, and there's no single accepted solution. It is often helpful to consider the problem context and dig deeper in order to understand the causes and plan your remedies for missing values. It is important to minimize balances or distortions when dealing with missing values. We often cannot simply throw away missing values because we need to have enough data for meaningful analysis. The pattern of missing values can sometimes, carry important information and be highly predictive. There are many software packages that provide a wider range of options for handling, missing values. So it is important to understand and choose the right options, since how missing values can have dramatic impact on the modeling outcome. So I hope that just gives an idea to anyone who's dealing with the issues of missing values. One thing I need to emphasize is understanding the context in which your data originates from. That will give you or will provide a clue or will provide the first step to understanding or knowing which method to use in dealing with your missing values. Thank you.